la, la, la.
I'm gonna go hide.
Why are we hiding?
Because we went live.
Oh, we went live.
Yeah.
So we have Greg Jameson here. I've known Greg, I'll have to ask him, about 10 years or so. And every time Greg shows up anywhere that I go, like PubCon or some of the other kind of events that are about like SEO or website makers and kind of the more hands into the guts of the internet kind of people, Greg always has a new project going. And this time he did what everyone's so afraid the world will see. He had a robot write a book. Greg wrote the book written by a robot, and we're going to talk to him about what that was like. And are we going to die now? Backpack Show. Boom shakalaka.
End it, start it. What's the difference?
We'll bring the beginning or the end of the show together.
Sponsors.
Sorry. Greg, hang on. We got you. We just got to do some sponsors. Hey, want to make a show better than we do? You can make a show on StreamYard. You can go to cbrogan.net.
You go to Winn-Dixie and find two random people. Could
probably be a better host than us. cbrogan.net/StreamYard. You can make your own show, but you've got to find your own guy writing books using a robot.
True.
Hey, want your own .online domain? You can. cbrogan.net/online. Just use the word Chris any way you want.
It has to be all caps. If you want the discount, which is 99 cents for the domain for 1 year. So cbrogan.net/online.
Yeah, get some. That's it. Let's grab our guy, Greg, and we got to talk to him. Hi, Greg. Good to see you. Welcome on board.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Thanks. It's going to be fun here.
It is. You asked a robot to write a book because while other people worry about things like this, you dove right in super fast and said, I want to see what that turns out like. Were you reacting in part when you decided to put this book out to people's worries that the world's going to be taken over by robots, or what made you decide to do this project?
It was one of those things where everybody just kept saying, AI can do this, AI can do that. And I'm like, well, then show me. Let's try it. And it was a very fun project to do, just to kind of experiment with it and see what things we're actually capable of.
Did you define the audience for the book and stuff when you did the prompt for it? Or were you just like, write a thing?
If you just tell it to write a thing, it doesn't do a very good job. You have to really tell it exactly what it is that you want. So obviously, you guys have a copy of the book. If you look through it, it's basically the same kind of things that I've been writing about in the past. How to create an online store. So
did you give it your books like as inspirational material, or is that not a thing you can do now?
You actually can. You can say, hey, here's a paragraph from a previous book that I wrote. Can you write this in a new method that's maybe funnier than I am? And you can also just give it a prompt that says, hey, tell me about, for example, affiliate marketing, but write it in the style of Greg Jameson. You can also say, write it in the style of Chris Brogan, or write it in the style of, whoever, Stephen King.
Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah. You did one of my favorite things you did. One of the favorite things that you did was that you had a little blurbs area at the beginning that said what other AIs are saying. Oh my gosh. When I got to that part, I laughed my head off. Robo Unit 9000 said this book is an interesting exploration of the theme of retirement and the role of technology in shaping our lives, and on and on. Greg, I have a question. In the intro, you go right into a reasonably sad story. The story is about a fella who's married who gets told, for financial purposes, the wife is sick. So for financial purposes, he has to divorce her to get the better option and all that. Did the robot come up with that storyline, or did you say, I would like to start this book on a terrible bummer?
I actually saw that come across in some social media post that somebody had done that. And I was like, is this real?
Wow.
That you should do this, that you can do this? And I thought it was an interesting concept. So I basically just took that concept and fed it into the AI and said, tell me about this.
And off the AI went. And I love that you kind of put yourself in as about the editor after the about the author, by the way. You used
have to look at it, right? You don't just go generate and publish. Like, you have to read it first.
Right.
You do. And it's actually interesting that one of the things that people have said about AI is that it hallucinates, as in it just makes things up based upon, it draws facts from different places when it creates its story. And that story may not be accurate, which is one of the reasons why people have been hesitant about using it. But I was like, hey, this is a fictional book anyway. I don't really care if it's accurate.
Of course. And you put that disclaimer at the beginning. Well, I have a first question. Deb says, did Greg edit anything that the AI wrote? And I know the answer is yes, but can you talk a little bit about the back and forth process of how much of this was spat out, and then how much did you have to go in and really overwrite it?
Yeah. So basically what happens is you feed it a prompt that you think is going to give you a reasonable answer. And I did this by chapter. It can't really do the whole book all at once. So I fed it a prompt. It gave me what it thought was a reasonable answer. And then I would take it and I would be like, let's refine that a little bit. Let's make it funnier. Let's, put in some more information about whatever. And then it would try again. And so most of the chapters actually had 3 or 4 different iterations of the robot editing itself. And then once it got done, I kind of needed to tie all those chapters together. So I would go in and kind of make it look like it flowed from one chapter to the next. And the English grammar was not something that really needed to be edited all that much, because the AI is pretty good at that.
Did it try to stop you editing? Like, I can't let you do that, Greg.
It didn't. It didn't. But as you know, I threw a few jokes in there, like about the when it was doing the artwork and stuff. It was like, hey, stop bashing on my artistic abilities.
Now, the book has a couple different purposes. One is, could you write a book with an AI? The answer turned out to be yes, because we have the book. Another was, you wanted to carry on the message of what you've been selling and promoting and the kind of things that you train people to do better. So if you don't even have to squint all that hard to realize that this is an advertisement for your web stores and your processes and all that. Can you talk just a tiny bit about what it was like to try to make a fictional book do the heavy lifting of selling what you offer?
That actually turned out to be a whole lot easier than what I anticipated. The AI is, I tried to make the book funny, as you know, and it did an okay job of that. It's probably funnier than I am, but it's still not exactly a humorous book. But I think that the fact that you can just do this and make it be something that is yours is actually something that's really powerful for everybody out there.
Copyright notice. Can you copyright it? So copyright Greg Jameson, all rights reserved 2023. Is it entirely yours?
And that's actually a really good question, because I was just listening to a podcast yesterday where the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, or whoever it is that's in charge of copyrights, basically came out and said that you cannot copyright things that are written by AI. You can copyright things that those portions of the text that you have written yourself, but the text that's written by an AI apparently is not allowed to be copyrighted. So I guess, if somebody wants to steal the content of this book, Go for it.
Come get it.
Well, I'm wondering, is it like, I'm a lawyer, so I apologize in advance that I'm boring, but it's like when animals take selfies, nobody can, like the person who owns the phone doesn't own copyright to that. An animal took it. And so they're like, nope, free for all. So maybe they're viewing this as kind of the same or analogous.
That's interesting. So they think of an animal using a phone to be the same as an AI helping Greg write a book.
Yep. Don't ask who Greg is in that scenario.
Wow.
The whole legal aspect of AI, I think, is something that's going to be really interesting how that plays out in the next few years.
But that's never stopped you in the past. I mean, what I know of you is you go in first and then see if anyone else has to challenge it or anything. There's a couple questions about mechanics, and I think the answer is ChatGPT. But the question is from Mr. Schultz, what tools did you use to publish this book? Oh, to publish it. Well, did you use KDP?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazon's Kindle development. Is it development? Kindle
Direct.
I didn't
Kindle
read a book.
Direct. That's right. Our friend Jonathan Harrison, who's a writer, says, as a writer, I'm curious, what type of pen does the AI use?
It uses a Blackwing pencil. Thank you for asking.
And an Underwood typewriter. Greg, as you mentioned, it took a little while to put this book together, but faster than a typical book that someone would write. Where do you think you spent kind of the lion's share of your time? Was it in crafting better prompts to get a better output, or was it in fixing the stuff that came out?
No, it was definitely in crafting the better prompts. It's like anything with a computer, garbage in, garbage out. So you really, anytime you use AI for anything, whether you're trying to write a book, you're trying to write a blog post, you're trying to write a product description, the more information you can feed it, the better it's going to be. And in fact, the feeding it information up front before you even start to have it generate something. So you tell it, hey, I want to write a chapter of a book about affiliate marketing.
Right.
And then it'll come back and it'll say, okay, I understand you want to write a book about affiliate marketing. Then you say, and I want this affiliate marketing chapter to include information about how to find affiliates. Can you do this? And you just start feeding it a bunch of prompts. And after you've fed it half a dozen prompts, then you come up with a really good prompt saying, hey, take all that information that I just fed you and create this chapter and do it in the style of Tony Hillerman or whoever you're trying to mimic. And then it will generate something that's fairly decent for you.
You making any money off this book, Greg?
Most of my books that I've written, what I have found is that they are great business cards. And if I could give away the book for free to everybody, I would do it because it's a fantastic business card. And the result is that, yeah, you make money because of the fact that you have a book.
Indirectly.
Whether or not you actually get any royalties from Amazon, that's a bonus.
Not to get all fussy, again, lawyers, but if you're like, let's just say this was a runaway hit and you end up on some like bestseller list or something, like, actually, will that even be allowed, or will people take issue with it, do you think? I mean, somebody would say something.
Yeah, somebody will say something, and would I have to give up some royalties back to OpenAI? I don't think that that's the case, but if the whole legal thing is going to be, like I said, really interesting and actually kind of fun to watch in the next couple of years, see what happens with this.
It's going to sort of end up like beauty pageants, how like they can make the rules for their pageant. So I feel like every bestseller list will make the rules for their thing, like no AI supported anything or something.
Some of the art websites are already saying they won't allow AI submissions, whereas other ones are saying, "Oh, please bring them." Like I
Yeah.
think Getty Images says no, and
Mhm.
there's a bunch
Well,
who
they
say
would.
yes.
Well, because they don't want to get mixed up in the copyright. Their bread and butter is copyright, suing other people for taking their stuff. If they don't even know who owns the stuff,
That's true.
they can't do that.
That's true.
So,
Greg, there's a comment here, and I definitely want to make this a topic. Sounds like using AI can help one become a better communicator. I presume you're a little bit like me and a lot of other people. You know, the millions of people came to ChatGPT faster than any other service in the past. I assume you were in there pretty early learning how to be a bit of a prompt engineer. Is that true? And are you still kind of finding ways to hone your abilities to make the most amazing prompts in the world?
It's I play with it a little bit every day. So yes, I think that it's interesting. Chat GPT, well, people can just use it, kind of as it is out of the box. It
Yeah.
is being used as a development platform, and there's actually probably hundreds of different AI platforms out there right now that are all built on Chat GPT, where they're building it for specific things. In fact, I know that there's one for lawyers, and it's built on Chat GPT.
lawyers are like, "Stop talking to me. You're not affiliated with me."
Right. Yeah, no, it's that's Microsoft with Bing. They're going direct to, I guess, an early iteration of GPT-4, but they're going to put it into more things than Bing, which is, again, people keep looking at this from a very limited view because they're thinking, well, it's going to get boring pretty quick to, talk to robots and ask it for your Google search. But I mean, Greg, you spend a lot of time, helping people improve their search, doing all kinds of things to make their online selling better and all that sort of a thing. Where are you? I don't know if Brett Petersell gives you a keynote speech at a PubCon. Brett Tabke. What am I doing? What are you going to do? What are you going to say about this as it applies to search?
I heard this thing just the other day that I thought was interesting, is that ChatGPT is different than search. Search, you're trying to actually grab things that are already there and display the information, whereas ChatGPT is a generative language model, meaning that it's trying to generate content from different sources. So it's really a little bit of a different animal than search is to begin with. And I know Bing is incorporating it. And apparently the process of incorporating it makes it slower because, one, it first does a search, then it asks GPT to expand upon those search results. And there's that extra layer in there as a result of that. But it's really two different things. And I think it's exciting that Bing is incorporating it into search, but we'll have to see how that plays out too.
For sure. I've got a bunch of questions I got to poke my way through.
I know. I miss being able to see the comments before.
Yeah, Carrie's got this view where the
Like
screen is
in the sidecar.
smudgy and wrecked. My dad asked a question that says, do companies own the AI engines that they create? Are there terms of service that apply? At least for ChatGPT, which is owned by OpenAI, they've licensed an API to GPT, which means that you're still using their services and it's their tool that generated the stuff, but that the output of it, they don't own any claim to. I am building a book creator service at the moment based on GPT-3. So there you go. Now we don't even need Greg can just go in there and type it and it'll just come right out. Jennifer asked the question, Greg, did you find any factual errors or any inconsistencies in the responses? And do you have any suggestions for improving the accuracy?
Did you look, first of all, I guess? Or were you like,
Yeah, I certainly looked. And since this was a fictional book, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know that I really cared if it was factual or not, because it's a story. On the other hand, there have been times when I've been using ChatGPT that I've asked it for very specific things, such as what's an app that I can use on Shopify to do something? And it would come back and it would give me some information. And I would go into Shopify and look for that app, and the app didn't exist. And I would go back and try to reprompt it saying, hey, that didn't work. Can you give me some other suggestions? And it would still come back with an invalid answer. So as I said, a generative language model can hallucinate. It makes stuff up based upon different things. And if you're trying to write a factual book, you're trying to write a nonfiction book, I would definitely check everything that it tells you, because it may not be accurate.
I have an event idea for you. You should do a book signing, and when people come up, like have ChatGPT generate their thing based on a couple things they tell you. Even if some of them are garbage, it'll be hilarious. And you just write them in.
Yeah.
I love it. That's actually great. What would be a perfect dedication for this book? Yeah. Greg, I have a question related to next steps, because the other thing is I went through your Amazon list of all the different books that you've written, and they're all on very different topics. So if people don't know who you are, they won't understand that it's not like you're sitting out there going, I can't wait to write 26 more books about a robot. What's the next project you've probably almost done another project already. So what are you putting out there next?
Well, there's two things. As far as books go, one of the things I've been doing for the last several years is collecting all of the phishing email messages that get sent to me. And I'm going to put out a book showing all these different phishing messages, just to kind of let people be aware of what they are, because some of them are actually pretty humorous. As far as an actual project goes, I just launched this yesterday, I guess it was, that I am doing a combination online course and mastermind, where every other week we're going through some new topic. Writing with AI, like writing product descriptions for your online store, is likely to be one of the things that we talk about in the near future. Yesterday, we actually talked about why your website needs to be compliant with ADA standards. And we have this class for about 30 minutes, and then we open the thing up as a mastermind, so all of the different store owners can go in there and share information with each other, what is working for them, what their experiences are, and then everybody can learn from each other.
That's the thing. It's hard for people, I think, to understand without knowing a little bit of your background, is that you're doing a lot of education stuff and all that. Greg, this I don't know, because I've only ever known you in this world. Like, I've only ever known you in, guy who makes the best online stores kind of world. What the heck did you do? What was your career back before you quit all that and joined the circus?
Ooh, can we guess? Project manager.
No, I was not a project manager. It's actually interesting. My college degree and my first job was being a landscape architect.
Oh.
And
I was just guessing, because we had two guests on the show one day that both turned out to have been project managers, and one was a financial dominatrix and the other was a pianist. So I thought,
yeah, we get a lot of failed project managers,
They're
Greg.
failed.
That's what we're saying.
They're failed. They left and did something else.
Right.
So
well, the transition from landscape architecture to doing website work was actually fairly easy, because they both related to design, and design principles tend to be design principles. But there was kind of a bridge in there where what actually happened is that AutoCAD came out, and AutoCAD didn't do landscape architecture very good. So being the nerd that I was, I kind of rewrote a bunch of stuff and created some add-ons to AutoCAD to make it work for landscape architecture.
Wow. I'm pausing a little because the company where Carrie and I have our day job right now, that's what they do. They take software that already exists and write better things to make it run a little better for very specified purposes. So you were doing that before it was cool. You're like a software hipster.
Like Steve Garfield of SteveGarfield.com.
I like that. Some people have talked about being a dinosaur, and other people have said that you're an OG, but I like the software hipster term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, there's a question there. How about a sensitive question, Greg? If you could reset a little, if you could get back, I don't know, 30 more years of runway right now than what you already have, which is hopefully another 40 or so years of runway. Where do you see this going? Where would you want it to go? And what do you hope that you can accomplish, in the many, many years you have left in your long life?
That's a good and interesting question, because you and I both know that I won't be around in 40 years. But, technology has absolutely changed everything during our lifetimes. And this whole idea of AI coming in and taking over people's jobs and what's it going to do to us, I don't think that's the case at all. I think that it is something that every technical tool that we come up with tends to make our life easier, and the result is it ends up creating more jobs than it takes away. So I think that I don't know the specific answer. I'm not that good of a futurist, but I do think that the whole idea of, hey, we've got all these new tools coming out, including machines that can think. How are we going to best utilize that? What kind of jobs are going to be created out of this in the future, and what's our future going to look like? I think the fact that we're capable of creating all these new technologies all the time is something that is actually a positive for mankind, as long as we can kind of keep control of it.
I love it. I love that answer. Greg, we didn't talk about this in the prep because, we only had a few minutes. There's a question we've asked every guest who's ever been on the show. This is, Sister Anne Flanagan from the Sisters of St. Paul. We've asked Sir Mix-a-Lot. We've asked Josh Robert Thompson, the voice of
Jeff the Robot.
Jeff the Robot. Why couldn't it? I was like, not Craig Ferguson.
G-E-O-F-F,
Jeff the Robot. We've asked them all the same question, which is what goes in your backpack? This is something either physical or something metaphorical. Carrie, what's a physical thing you could add to a backpack?
Extra set of teeth. DJ Cumberbund.
Mm-hmm. How about something metaphorical you could add?
Kindness. Ariel Helvetica, burlesque performer.
So Greg Jameson, I don't know that we have time to fire up GPT-3 and ask it the question, but what would you think we should add to a backpack for success in the future?
I think that, I've got a friend that actually does this, where he carries a backpack in the trunk of his car, and in it, he always has things to give to people that are in need of help. And I think that that's something that is a really powerful thing to do. And whatever it is, if you're giving somebody an emergency blanket on the side of the road, or you're giving somebody an emergency tool of some kind that will help them out metaphorically, I think that having some kind of a tool to help people is what I would put in a backpack.
I love it. I think that's a great question, a great answer to a good, reasonable question.
It's like they pull out the perfect thing they need.
Yeah.
Like the room of requirement in Harry Potter, but it's a backpack.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
Sorry, Greg, didn't mean to stomp on your line.
You meant to stomp on me.
I meant to stomp on Carrie. I do that a lot. Person of the day. I'm giving it to Fred Faulkner the fourth. He hasn't even been around in a while. And I'm not giving it to Dean, who showed up super late because he doesn't actually know what the concept of time is.
Stop it. Maybe it's a different time zone where he is.
I know. He's lots going on in his world. So, Fred, you get an apple. Have an apple. I also didn't tell Greg. I just realized how this show ends.
He's about to find out.
Yeah. It's a little different than any other show you've ever been on. That's for darn sure. So,
did your grandma ever write a book?
My grandmother never did write a book, nor was she alive to see me write mine. She saw my early attempts at writing books. We're almost like early bad ChatGPT prompts, by the way. So, I once wrote a book about a science fiction 5-year battle that the twist ending was that it didn't take 5 years; it took like a day.
Get the sequel.